Hi, I want to welcome you all to this recording that's part of a larger series offering mental health and suicide prevention information, support, and resources in response to the global pandemic. My name is Kelsey Schmitz, and I work for the University of Washington at the School Mental Health Assessment Research and Training Center, or SMART Center, as the School Mental Health Lead to the Northwest Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. Our center is located in Seattle, Washington. In response to the critical need for information during and after the global pandemic, a group of organizations based in the Northwest region have quickly formed an alliance to join together to co-develop, co-deliver, co-sponsor, and co-brand content, resources, and other information. In an effort to bring together in one spot a wealth of relevant information and access to school mental health experts, the Northwest MHTTC and the UW Smart Center are partnering with Forefront Suicide Prevention Center, Drs. Jim and Liz Mazza, the Association of Washington School Principals, Northwest Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports Network, Sound Supports, and Well Educator to bring you the Wellbeing Series. If you'd like to learn more about the Wellbeing Series, please visit our Wellbeing Series webpage and learn about the other events that are planned. All the events are free and anyone's welcome to join. If you have any questions, you can reach out to my colleague, Megan Lucy. As I mentioned, we're part of the National Mental Health Technology Transfer Center Network. This network is funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration and includes 10 regional centers, a National American Indian and Alaska Native Center, a National Hispanic and Latino Center, and a network coordinating office. If you're interested in reaching out to the Northwest region, where we support the workforce development of school mental health professionals in Alaska, Oregon, Washington, and Idaho, you can find information for how to email us, how to visit our website, sign up for our newsletter, and connect with us on social media. Now we hope that you will join us to go into the living room of Drs. Jim and Liz Mazza with their family as they teach their kids the basics of emotional regulation and specific skills such as mindfulness, distress tolerance, and interpersonal effectiveness, essential skills at any time, but even more critical during COVID-19. We hope you'll tune into this lesson and the other lessons that are scheduled to help your kids and your family reduce conflict and keep this pandemic in perspective. If you're interested, here's the weekly schedule. All lessons will be recorded and posted to YouTube. You can also watch these on YouTube Live by subscribing to the DBT in Schools YouTube page. We also invite you to join us on May 19th and June 16th for a session live with Drs. Jim and Liz Mazza. These sessions require registration, and you can get those registration links as well as information about the rest of this series by visiting the website at the bottom of this slide. We hope you enjoy this lesson.
Hi everybody, I'm Jim Mazza. Welcome to our edition of Student Skills for Surviving and Thriving During COVID-19 and Beyond. This is episode 12, I believe. Is that correct? 12? All right, I'm one of the authors of the DBT Steps 8 curriculum. That is this book that will be teaching the skills of building, mastering, coping ahead from at this point. All right, I'm going to introduce you to my class here, who also happen to be our children. So go ahead.
My name is Jackson Mazza. I am 13 and I am in 7th grade.
My name is Grace. I am 8 and I'm in 2nd grade.
My name is Ashton. I'm 12 and I'm in 6th grade.
Great. All right, and as we do with all of our exercises here, we start off our lessons with mindfulness. All right, and so what we're going to be doing is a mindfulness exercise called Zen counting. All right, and we've done that before. So we have never gotten to the end of our Zen counting, so I'm going to ask Liz to kind of introduce herself first and then come and join us for Zen counting. All right?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Liz Dexter Mazza.
All right, and Zen counting goes like this. The idea behind Zen counting is that we're trying to count from 1 to 20, all right, with each person saying a number there, right, and not going in any order.
No, it has to be in order.
No, what I'm saying is that we don't go around in a circle,
yeah.
like a specific way. All right? And what we're trying to do is read each other's minds, right? Or try to think about when we can actually say a number out loud to then get us up to 20. If two people say the number at the same time, we go back to the number 1 again. All right? The idea is you can't give any hints, you can't do this, can't look at them like it's your turn and so forth. It's the idea of trying to figure out when to say a number out loud, and one person can't say two numbers in a row either, all right? And so we're going to demonstrate doing Zen counting. So I want everybody to kind of stand up. Go ahead and get into your group. We're going to have Liz join us here as well. All right? And then so we're going to do this. So Zen counting is what we're going to do. All right? So I'm going to demonstrate by starting at 1 real quickly. So let's do it like a 10-second demonstration and see how we do it, and then we can give it to them again. All right? You ready? So 1.
2.
So they said at the same time, so we have to start over again. 1.
2.
1.
2,
3.
3.
1.
2.
3.
4.
5.
6.
7.
Stop. Great.
We did
That's
it! We got it!
how it's done. So you could see that, right? And so we actually got up to 7,
Which is the farthest we've ever
first
gone.
we got,
No, we've
right?
gotten to 9.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
take now 2 minutes to do this as a group. I want you to do it at home as well. That remember, 2 numbers can't be stated at the same time. That's the big one, right? And no giving hand signals or anything else. All right, or eyelids. All right, stand up, Jackson. Let's do it again. This is for good. So step 1, we want to be in our mindfulness position. All right, so get everything clear from you. Step 2, we're going to take a nice deep breath in. And 3, we're going to begin Zen counting.
1.
2,
3.
1.
3.
1.
3.
4,
5.
6.
1.
3.
4,
5.
6.
7.
8,
9.
Oh!
1. Jackson, don't look at Liz.
2.
3.
3,
4.
1.
1,
2.
3.
4.
5,
1.
2.
1.
2.
1.
2.
So 1.
2,
1.
2,
3.
4.
5.
6.
7,
7. 8.
1.
2.
2.
3.
3.
1.
2.
1.
2.
1.
2.
3.
4,
1.
2.
1.
2.
1.
2.
1.
2.
We should mute.
1.
2.
2.
No. Start over. 1.
3.
4.
5.
6.
7,
9.
10.
11.
We finally got to 11. Okay, stop at home.
Yes! We got to 10.
How did you guys do at home? What number did you get up to? We got to 11 in the Mazza family.
That's the highest
and we
we've
have
ever
practiced
got.
this before, and so it is good. We were
So
struggling with
awesome.
getting to 2 and 3 before, so everybody want to chime in.
2.
Put
2.
in the chat
2.
box
2.
how you did with your Zen counting, all right? And as you're putting that in the chat box, I just want to give you an idea of why we're doing what we're doing. We know that during COVID-19 is a really kind of a difficult time. We wanted to increase our kids' education in learning emotional regulation skills, all right? So what we call social emotional learning. Those programs are often happening at schools, and when schools went to online education, a lot of the social emotional learning actually kind of dissipated to the sides because they were focusing on just kind of the core academics. Liz and I believe that social emotional learning is a core academic, and that we wanted to include the education of the skills that we put in our curriculum, our DBT Steps 8 curriculum, into our family's education. So if we were going to be teaching our kids some of these skills, we thought, why not teach a lot of kids these skills? And we would go live and have this be our classroom and have people join us so that they could get some of the emotional regulation skills as well. And so that's the purpose of what we're trying to do.
And I think,
All right.
can you make it just review the announcements that we had at the beginning
Sure,
as well?
let's it. So we have some announcements also that we'd like to do. So I need the next slide.
Getting there.
All right, so we do have 2 big announcements here, right? So Liz and I are going to be doing a live question and answer, a Q&A that's sponsored by Forefront and the Mental Health Technology Transfer Center that we're going to do on May 19th and June 16th during this exact time, this 10 to 11 time, all right? And so we want you to be able to put in the chat box, interface with us about what this is going to look like, all right? And so we want you to be able to have questions. We'll try to provide answers to you as best we can. We'll try to apply the skills that we've also developed to help you with some of the emotional regulation skills with your family, all right? And then the second announcement that I have is that we have a parenting through COVID-19 live stream that we do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings at 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And that's actually found at Facebook Live, all right? And so you can go to dbtinschools.com, which is our website, to register for that Q&A. And then also pick us up on DBT in Schools, our Facebook Live page, all right? So please go ahead and join us there. All right. With all of our mindfulness lessons, as we do, we debrief or we talk about what did you notice. So I'm going with you, Jackson. What did you notice when we were trying to do Zen counting?
A lot of us were getting stuck on the twos.
Right?
Two.
I actually noticed that you tried to do every other number you were trying to get in. So when someone said 6, you said 7 and 8.
9.
And so you were trying to do that, right? Which makes it hard for everybody else to get to participate. So you had an eagerness to get done and get through it, while also then we want
Actually, no, that was just strategy to get.
well, right. And what happens with that strategy is that it only allows
But if you do it too much, then the one person gets, then someone tries to chime in, and you're like still
right.
doing it.
That's
and then
right. So the idea is to use your Zen skills, not to get done with it fast, to be mindful. All right, Grace, what did you notice?
Zen skills.
Nice and loud.
Ashton and Jackson kept saying
Louder.
2. Then
Ashton
2.
and Jackson kept saying 2.
Then
Yes.
2.
Yes.
Then 2.
Right. And so we had to start over quite a bit. Ashton, what did you notice?
It was annoying, like it always is.
It's annoying because we couldn't get further. You were the first one to be excited though. I saw you starting to smile when we got to 10.
It seems so easy. It like sounds and looks so easy when like someone explains it to you. Like, oh, we can just like
Do this in a
like
random
this,
order.
Okay.
and then like it's just so much harder than it sounds.
So what's the idea though behind this? We talked about our house skills, right?
Being mindfully in the moment.
Exactly. 1 for 1 early. Being mindfulness in the moment, right? And just being, what we're trying to do is be effective. So Jackson tried to do a strategy that was effective, yet it was pushing some of us out so that we couldn't get in, right? So it was ineffective to us, effective for you, all right? And so we're gonna have, we're gonna work on different types of skills that we can do to be effective. All right. With that, we're actually gonna learn some skills in the emotion regulation side of our continuum called building mastery and coping ahead. And I'm gonna turn it over to Liz to teach those skills.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. Well, good morning for us on the West Coast, and good afternoon, and maybe even good evening, depending on where you're watching us from. We're so glad you're here joining us for our DBT Steps A class. Grace, I just want to let you know you got a little shout out for Go Badgers from one of your friends watching as well.
Nice.
So, noticed, and that's right, Go Badgers. All right, everybody. So here's what we're going to kind of go with today. And if you haven't been with us for the last several weeks, I'm just going to give you a brief little recap of some of the skills we've been teaching, just so you kind of know where we are. So if you want to switch to that first PowerPoint slide, that would be great. Just to tell you, like in general, in all of our skills and in DBT Steps A, we focus on teaching both acceptance-based skills on things that we can't change to help us be right in this moment, and we teach change and problem-solving skills. So right now, we're in the emotion regulation module of skills, so we're teaching a lot of change skills. How do we change, regulate, up-regulate, down-regulate, and help manage our emotions? And so that's what we're working on right now in skills. And so with this, last week, who can tell me on 2 days ago, on Tuesday, in our last episode, what skill did we teach?
The mindfully in the moment.
What
we practiced
skills?
mindful in the moment, but we practiced one specific skill.
Observing.
Nope, that's a mindfulness skill. We were talking about how to do fun things.
What are they called? What are they called?
It's two big words. It's kind of hard to remember.
Emotions.
Our valuables or something?
Values, right? We were working.
Yeah,
We were working on how do we
Thingies.
identify our values in the long term and work towards behaviors and goals that are in line with our values.
Ow.
And what did we work on every single day? Talk about.
Grateful.
Were we doing gratefuls, like noticing joy every day? Right? To do one positive thing to bring us joy every day on that. And if you go to the next slide, you can see what we taught the last couple weeks or sessions. We've been working on these skills called the ABC Please skills. And so on Tuesday, we teach the A. Oh, we'll go back. Not that one. Back one more.
No, that.
Or maybe it's forward one. There you go. We're teaching, sorry, they're in the wrong order. That happens sometimes, and we notice it, and we keep going forward, right? It's one of our skills. So we're teaching these skills called the ABC Police skills, right? And these are skills of how do we increase our positive emotions and how do we reduce our vulnerability to more negative emotions. So on Tuesday, in our last episode, on May 5th, we taught how to accumulate positive experiences, both on the everyday and in the long term. And then, several weeks ago, back in episode 5 on April 16th, remember we taught those please skills, right? And all of the accumulating positive skills and the please skills, like they're like vitamins for our emotions so that we can regulate them and manage them more effectively. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? What can you tell me really quick what some of the please skills were?
Saying
Push
please.
away.
No, push away. No.
The motion thermometer.
There's a motion thermometer, right? How do we make ourselves more vulnerable?
Eating.
So
Balanced eating.
Balanced eating, right?
Yay.
That's an one. Sleeping.
Walk away from it or something.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise.
Exercising. Getting some exercise in every day, right? Not eating like too much sugar or things that like taking in things and foods and drinks that maybe kind of make our emotions go up and down, like caffeine or lots of sugar and candy.
Mommy,
Video games.
Lots of video games, lots of screen time. Limiting screen time was one of them. Yes, Grace.
what does accumulate mean?
Accumulate means
It
to
builds up.
build up, to add more and more and more. I'm accumulating fun activities. I'm bringing in doing more fun activities. Or when I accumulate toys, I get more and more and more toys. Right?
That's
Okay.
fun.
So that's what we taught in those last two lessons about how to kind of build some of that. And now we're going to move into today teaching two more skills called one, building mastery, and the other one's cope ahead. Okay, so those are the two things we're going to go over today. And going back, do you guys remember this model of emotions? Hey, Ashley, do you remember that model of emotions over there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right? And it showed like those are all the different pieces of emotions that we want to be working with and everything. And so we're going to put in our building mastery and cope ahead skills to decrease our vulnerability factors, to help manage the prompting events that set off our entire emotional response. And we're going to think about coping ahead as a way of looking at how we're going to, in our thoughts and in our mind, change the potential outcome of these difficult situations. Does that make sense? So that's where we're going to apply them. So let's jump into kind of talking about building mastery first. All right, so when we build mastery, we're going to be thinking about three things, all right? First, when we build mastery, we are working on building confidence, competence, and control.
What's
What do you-
competence?
3 C's.
The 3 C's. What are the 3 C's?
Confidence, and
Control.
some other
Competence, confidence, and control.
Okay.
Competence.
Okay,
Control.
so
What does
Compete.
competence
so
mean?
what does
Compete.
competence mean?
That you compete with something.
No, competence means
That's
to
overkill.
to get better at it, to improve over time.
like building.
Like when you become more competent at reading, you're able to read more and more and move into reading comprehension and go from board books to small, like short stories to chapter books.
To real
You're
books.
building competence in your reading.
500-page books.
It's 1,000-page
Exactly.
books.
All right, so that's what we're working on
War
today.
and Peace.
With building mastery, we're going to work on increasing our control, increasing our competence and confidence, which can have an outcome at the end of increasing some of the joy we experience. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we look at this next slide here, that says we're going to be working on building competence, building confidence, and control. There's 3 things they're going to help us do. Okay, and you guys have this on your handout here with number 1, 2, and 3. Jackson, read number 2 for
two,
me
two,
under
two,
build
two.
mastery.
Plan for success. Plan for success, not failure. Do something difficult, not but and possible.
Right. So really looking at this, the thing that we're thinking about with building confidence and competence is that we want to work on doing things and planning for success over time, doing things that are a little bit hard, right? We want every day to be able to show that we did something that's a little bit hard that we can accomplish, right? It's one of the reasons why we kind of track, what are our school assignments that we're doing during the day? Or every day I track how much water I drink or whether I exercise or not. Because when I see all my check marks off at the end of the day, I can see that I accomplished some tasks for the day and the activities. Okay? What does number 3 say, Ashton, on there for you?
imagine the situation. Wait.
Nope.
Oh, and
Number
build mastery. Gradually increase the difficulty over time. If the first task is too difficult, do something a little easier next time.
Right. So we're going to gradually do things that are harder and harder over time. So kind of like back to our reading example, that when you're building competence and control and mastery, you're building up in the difficulty, because we don't want to just stay reading the same single storybooks our whole life, right? We want to make that progression.
Because then you don't learn anything.
Right, because you're just kind of like, oh, I accomplished this one thing, I'm good. But you're not taking yourself to the next level and moving that harder and harder and harder on that. So these are things we want to be thinking about. We're going to plan for success on how do we do something that's a little bit hard and still possible for us to achieve. We're going to do things that gradually increase in difficulty over time, right? And we're going to try to do one of those things every day. So there's two types of mastery activities we're going to look at, okay? The two types of mastery activities are, there's some that we might not particularly enjoy doing in the moment, right? Can we go to the next slide, please? It's something that you don't particularly enjoy in the moment, and when you're done, you have a sense of joy from it and accomplishment for it, right? Can you think of any tasks that you have to do? And I want you guys to think about this at home and then give us some suggestions in the chat bar about what are some of the things that you have to do that you might not actually enjoy or find pleasure in the moment. And when it's done, when you've completed the task, there's that increase of joy, accomplishment, and confidence in it. What are some things like that maybe for you?
Finishing cleaning my room.
When you finish cleaning your room. You do not like cleaning your room?
No.
Or is that what you're telling us? Do you guys like cleaning your room at home? For
Nope.
some people, they might, right? And so they get joy doing it.
Well,
And
no.
for some people, like me and Grace and Jackson, Ashton, do you like cleaning your room? No. And when we get it to clean, how do you feel when it's done? When your floor
Relief.
is empty,
Really?
Oh, yay, I cleaned my room.
right? Do you have that?
Now it's going to last for a day, and it's going to go back to
Right.
dirty.
I think you, Ashton, told me a couple weeks ago that you had this sense of like calmness when the house is clean, when the floors are cleared.
It's not like, oh, where do I put my stuff? Oh, clean up this stuff. It's like, where do we put this stuff to clean up?
So you just feel
What
kind of
do I
clean and
do?
open, and you have, it's not as cluttered. So when things aren't as cluttered, right? But the act of cleaning up is hard. What other activities do you guys have that you might not particularly enjoy doing, and when you're done? Yes.
One of our families shouted out that they don't like to put away dishes.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
That's like
putting
us.
away the dishes, right?
3,000%.
3,000% you don't like putting away the dishes. And does it give you that sense of accomplishment when it's done?
No.
No? What do you get out of it when you're done?
Nothing.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Right, you
because
do-
then
you
it just gets loaded literally 10 minutes later. And it's like, empty the dishwasher. It's like, we just did.
Right, and it's that balance. Right? These are kind of some things that you don't particularly enjoy doing,
'Cause you
and
do
you
it,
don't
like,
get a lot of
3 times a
accomplishment
day.
out of it, right? We have to kind of give you some reinforcers for doing it. Yes, Grace?
I can kind of also make it fun cleaning my room because I can blast music at level 8 on my Alexa.
Right, so you figured out how do you do something that you don't enjoy, pair it with something you like in order to make it not as painful when you're doing it.
That's what I do when I fold laundry.
Put away my
Okay.
clothes to the beat.
Right? And so
That's what I do when I fold laundry.
Solve it. Okay, so you're figuring out how to pair that with some things. All right. So those are things that, like, I particularly, don't like doing yard work, right? And doing gardening. What I do like is like what I did last weekend when I took out the power tools and I cut down a bunch of trees
I
and
like power
bushes
tools.
and cleared out a whole space. And then when it was done, it just looked so much cleaner and I accomplished it. I didn't particularly enjoy it while I was doing it. And when it was done, I had that sense of accomplishment. So that's one kind of building mastery activities. Things you don't particularly enjoy in the moment and you feel more confidence and accomplishment and joy when you're done. And the other ones are things that make you feel more effective and more in control and also can help to build that competence, right? And these could be things that are similar to some of the things we just talked about. But what other things might be that, like, you don't enjoy it, you don't have joy when it's over, but you actually feel like you've accomplished something bigger on that? Can you think of things? Ashton?
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, okay. Did you get unmindful for a moment and you had to bring your attention back? All right. That's important that we just keep practicing noticing and with that observing muscle, bringing our attention back. So what are some things that you can think of that help you feel effective and in control? Because maybe it's a bigger task of something that's been hard for you, and you keep having to do small pieces of it to get it done, even though you don't really enjoy it, and it's hard while you're doing it.
Science fair.
So the science fair, that's a really great example. That was like a 4-month-long project, and you did not enjoy it at all.
It was
Neither did I.
super boring.
Super boring and hard, right? Kind of coming up with the design for the board and doing the write-ups of the labs and the actual experiment.
Super duper hard.
Yeah. And so what happened for you? Did you feel more control or feel more effective when you were done with it?
No.
No? Right? You didn't think, I thought when we had talked about it, that effectiveness of doing behaviors that are in line with your long-term goals, part of your goals was to have a strong science grade.
Yes, it was.
Yes, and so did doing the science fair project and doing it well the way you did it and accomplishing it, did that help you feel effective as if you reached your goal?
Yes, I got 3 100s.
Okay, so that's the link there, right? You didn't enjoy it and it was effective in helping you come back to reach your goals. So doing a science fair project. And can you think of any other things? It doesn't have to be a huge thing. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be related to school. What are some things that you have as a goal to get better on? Like for me, one of the things that I've been getting as a goal that's been really hard is all of a sudden I'm learning all of this technology about how to do live streams and how to use recording equipment and video equipment, right? And every day almost, or every week, I am getting a little bit better and a little bit better and learning more and more things, right? And so I'm feeling more effective, more in control as we're building this up. Okay, so we need to kind of keep thinking of things like that. And so for you at home, if you can think of things also that are hard, that you're trying to grow and improve upon, that over this time, like during COVID-19, for some of us, we're thinking about what's a new thing I want to learn? And it's been hard, and maybe I haven't had the time to work on it, and now I'm trying to learn this new task. Can you think of things like that?
I can think of one for our family. It's actually with Jackson, in that Jackson has learned to run 3 miles instead of 2. He used to say, I can only run 2 miles. I can only run 2 miles. And so we pushed that one time to do 3 miles, right? And we had to take a little bit of a break. And then the next time we didn't have to take the break, right? So again, you're pushing that half step further, challenge step. And now you can do 3 miles pretty easily, right? So yeah, I think that's a good example. So let's put that one in there as well, all right?
Right. So there's the things that we have to do that we don't like chores. And then there are the things we want to grow and improve upon, right? That are hard. Like when I ran that half marathon last year and I couldn't even run for 3 minutes at the start of it, right? And I had to grow and every week run a little bit harder, right? And help me build that mastery every week. Does that make sense? All right, so you guys, have you thought about anything like that for yourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Science.
Science, right?
So we
You've
got
been building
science.
mastery in science. And in math, I'd say you've been building that and kind of improving on that. And I think, do we have any more comments from folks watching us here?
Running a 5K.
Running a 5K for some folks, right? That's building that up. Like that's why they have those couch to 5K programs where you start from sitting on the couch and getting yourself to running those 5K. Exactly. All right, so what I want you guys to think about is plan on doing one hard thing every day. So when either now, if you have it, write it down, or when we finish class today, I want you to write down what's one hard thing I'm going to try to do every day. And it doesn't have to be the most impossible thing. It's got to be, it can be something that's a little bit hard and possible for you to accomplish. Make sense? All right? And I don't want you to try to do 10 new things that are hard all at the same time. Start with one hard thing at a time.
Maybe doing my loom weaving.
So you're going to, loom weaving, that's something that you've been wanting to learn how to do, right? So maybe start with a basic pattern and then growing to more of the more difficult patterns and then maybe moving all the way up to creating your own patterns, right? That would be doing them stepwise a little bit harder each time.
Or then like making a scarf.
Or making a scarf, that could be it too. Great ideas. All right, so let's move to the next skill, okay? So we've just talked about how we're going to build mastery. And the next skill we're going to talk about, do you guys need to stand up and shake around, do a little wiggle for a moment?
I think that might be a good idea.
I think so. I'm
let's do
noticing that sometimes everybody
wiggle.
get a little antsy. All right, we're going to stand up and we're just going to move our bodies for 30 seconds. Everybody at home, just get up and move your body. Just go all in.
Wiggle.
Jackson, stand up.
Oh,
Grace,
come on.
stand up.
Whatever.
We're gonna move.
Yeah,
All right,
wiggle,
don't
wiggle.
stay over here with us, though.
No.
I'm going to move over here.
I just needed to take my coat off.
All right, I'm going to get myself a little cup of water.
All right.
Sometimes we just need to shift our bodies a little.
Get
All
the
right.
energy back into our brain.
You guys are a little tired
All
today.
right, let's go.
Maybe we watched a little too much TV last night. Stayed
Well,
up a
I
little
did
late.
wake. Well, me and Ashton did wake up at 7.
That is true. You guys got up because you're building mastery
whole
on getting up and getting things done before the morning starts. All right, let's turn to cope ahead. Cope ahead is another skill that I think is so incredibly important that we practice. That with cope ahead, what we're really thinking about is how do we prepare ourselves for difficult situations that might be coming up, right? That we know sometimes there are things coming up that we have to do, and we might have an emotional reaction in the moment to it, right? And with the skill of cope ahead, we are going to practice rehearsing ahead of time how we may act skillfully and effectively if that situation comes up. So there's 3 questions we want to ask ourselves when we have things coming up, right? The first question is, a big one is we say, what is the threat? What's the thing that I'm feeling threatened by or I think might happen? And our cogs in our brains all start turning and moving, right? When we start thinking about things. So ask yourself, what's the threat? Or what's the worst thing that could happen in this situation?
They, or whatever, like, it's like denied or turned down or
Right,
whatever.
like I'm going to ask for this really big thing from somebody and I'm going to get turned down. And then maybe I'm going to get so angry and my emotions are going to go so high and I'm afraid I'm just going to lash out at them and scream or throw something or break something, right? And the other way you might ask it is also, what am I most worried about in this situation happening, right? And what if that happens? What am I going to do? So can any of you guys think about for a moment any situations that might bring on, if you were able to ask somebody something or you were going to get some news on something, what might be the worst possible outcome for you?
Yeah, we can't even go in our backyard outside.
Oh, so this is like we were talking about earlier, like right now, we really don't leave our house and we don't leave our neighborhood much at all. But what if all of a sudden, like, somebody came in and said, you know what? Now we don't actually really want anybody going outside. And for some folks, like, we're really fortunate, we have a backyard here. But some folks who like live in apartments or condos or in the cities, they don't have yards and they actually can't go outside. So what if somebody said, you can't go outside anymore?
No,
Not even in your backyard.
Not even your backyard. You have to stay in the house all the time. Like, what do you think? What would be the worst thing about that for you guys?
I'd be yelling at them and screaming at them.
No
and sticking
basketball.
my head in the pillow.
No running.
No running, no basketball, right? Do you think if I said that to you, you'd have
No
a big emotional
cornhole.
response?
Possibly.
Mm-hmm.
C.
Yes.
Possibly.
Okay.
Yes, 100.
Right? And if I said that, like, we might have to have a conversation, we might want to cope ahead for if that information happened to occur, right? That they said, we can't have that anymore. Grace, what was the other thing you were talking about at the table this morning would be a really hard situation if you got told this information?
I would scream, yell, stomp around, and stick my head in a pillow.
Oh, so that's what you would do if somebody said to you, you can't go outside anymore, right? You'd probably get really angry, like, that's not fair. We can't do this. They can't keep us in our house.
Yep.
Right? What would you say, Ashton?
I wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do that? You might have a different
I
reaction.
might just run outside.
Grace, I wonder if you stomped, were screaming, put your head in a pillow, would you be in emotion mind or you think wise mind?
Motion mind.
Yeah. So we might have to figure out a way to get some of the emotion to come down before we actually get into our change skills, right? Get into our cope.
Right.
Isn't
The
it
other
still
thing
waiting?
we kind of talked about also, Grace, is
Like,
imagine.
the thing to do that is by going outside.
Right, Grace, the other thing we talked about, like, imagine sometimes you have a hard time getting some of your assignments done. They take you a while. What if your teacher told you, new rule, all assignments have to be completed within 10 minutes, and if it's not done in 10 minutes, then you get 0 credit for it. What would be your emotional reaction?
Like in class
All work, all assignments. What would be your emotional reaction to that, Grace? Hey, Grace, I'm over here. What would be your emotional reaction?
I'd probably do the same thing.
Right, that's kind of often your like response of to get really angry, to cry, sometimes stomp your feet and saying no, 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 right?
Yeah.
And do you think that would be effective?
No.
No. All right. So in
But
that
I only
moment,
have 10 minutes, and I'm using that 10 minutes to stomp around.
exactly, then you're getting further behind on it. So what we would use this skill of cope ahead for is to say, okay, imagine that situation happens. I've heard rumors that this may be coming down the line, and we're going to get this new rule. And if that comes in, I want to keep my emotions in control. So what do I need to do ahead of time to kind of be able to keep those emotions in control in that moment? Okay. Can you guys think of any examples for yourselves that things might come up? I'm thinking of like if we get for school, right? More big assignments come down the line, or they tell you no more extensions on things, or when you hear maybe that camps are all canceled for the summer.
No.
Right? Or what are some kind of COVID-19 things that might come up? I'm thinking, what if they say, hey, you know what, folks? We're not going back to school in September either. We're going to continue with distance learning in September.
How
You're having the
dare
urge
they?
to scream and yell.
If
Right.
they
Well,
if they would like say to me like, oh wait, you can't go outside anymore, like at all,
That'd be a high emotion.
I'd be like, okay, you just watch me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are they gonna do? It's not like they're gonna be patrolling the backyard 24/7.
Or what if, let's add it this more, that everybody gets to go back to school except your school. Your school administrators and staff have decided we're not going back. We don't, it's whatever other schools do, but we're not going back. You have to stay home.
sounds like public v. private.
Well, it could be whatever school, right? But imagine, do you think you would have an anger reaction towards your school?
Yes.
For that?
Probably.
Well, it depends. It's either like, oh, our school is like annoying, or all the other schools are just really stupid.
Right, it could be. You might have some of those judgments, but that's when we have to kind of figure that out and check the facts. So that's exactly what we want to do with this skill here, is to think about those things that might come up and to know, like, I know if I got the notice maybe that says, all schools are going back except yours, and that means you guys are going to be home for another semester, and I have to keep getting work, and Dad has to work from home, right? I might get really angry and have the urge to get right on my computer and just start emailing and texting my friends and the administration in the school and like, what's going on, right? What are you doing? And that might make the situation worse, and my emotions are going to get a lot higher. So we've got to think about what to do in those. So let's look at the handout you guys have, and let's look at our next slide to talk about what are the 4 things we have to do. This is going to be a place where all the skills we've been learning so far are going to start coming in together.
360.
Imagine the
All right.
situation.
So it says number 1 under cope ahead for emotional situations. Right. What does number 1 say? The first thing we have to do when we cope ahead, if we worry about this thing coming up, what is it, Justin?
Describe a
decide.
situation
Wait,
that
Grace,
is
hold on.
likely to create negative emotions.
Right. And we got to be really specific in that, right? We've got to be really specific. We got to use our check the facts skill that we learned a couple of classes ago about how to really check the facts. Like, if we didn't go back to school, right? Or maybe we have to check the facts like, hey, just because a classmate of yours, Grace, said that your teacher was going to make this rule that all assignments done in 10 minutes,
How does
we might have to check the facts
apply
like,
to me?
is that a rumor or is that a possibility?
There's
and
no
maybe
way
go
that's
talk to
true.
the teacher. So
Yeah.
we're going to describe the situation, and we're going to describe what's the threat. So Grace, if you were to describe what's the threat, what's the problem with your teacher saying every assignment is done within 10 minutes or you get 0 credit?
I can't do that.
You can't do that, right? So
I'm not going to be able to do that.
And then if you can't do that, what's the problem?
I get a 0 on everything, and
Yeah.
I'm probably going to stay back from school.
Okay, so that's your worry, that you'd get a 0 on everything would be the biggest fear. So once we got to describe, like, what's the worst thing that would happen? And then we're going to decide. Ashton, what's it say for decide?
Decide what coping or problem-solving skills you want to use in this situation. Be specific or write it out. Oh, wait, no, just be specific.
Okay, so first, describe what skills you're going to use ahead of time for that. So Grace, we would talk about, like, all right, if we heard this rumor and we know it's a possibility and it comes out, what skills do you think it's going to be important for you to use when the day I tell you or the moment I tell you, hey, new rule. We got to get everything done in 10 minutes. And your emotions are going high. What skill do you think you need to get from yourself in that moment from emotion mind back into wise mind?
I need to talk to you and stand up for myself.
So you might want to think about like, all right, how am I going to talk and stand up for yourself? Are you going to be able to do that in emotion mind, or do you have to get to wise mind first?
Probably to wise mind.
Okay. Yep. Jackson?
Crisis survival skills.
You need a crisis survival skill right there to do some distracting.
Because they're above 65.
Right. If my emotions are really high, I might have to pull in my distract skill or one of my other crisis survival skills. Maybe even do a pros and cons on that. Right. And then your anger might be really high. What skill do you sometimes use to get your anger down? Even when it makes sense that you're angry. To run or?
To run and do something else to cool off.
Okay. So
Opposite action.
Shower, or like just go in your room.
Opposite action.
Right, so there's
Play
two
with
things we might do. We
magnets.
might either do opposite action to get our anger down, or we might do what we call one of our tip skills, which I'm not sure if we haven't taught here yet. We're going to get to that in a couple weeks. Our tip skill of how do we get our emotion down fast, really in the moment, which is one of our distress tolerance skills. So we have two options for getting our anger down.
Stick your head in a big bucket of water.
You got it. Put your face in some ice water, and we will get to that when we teach the tip skills. But those are definitely, we want to really think about what skills we're going to use. So Grace, I imagine for you that when your emotion is high, because I just told you that, hey, new rule, all assignments have to be done in 10 minutes. And we know in that moment, your emotions are going to go really high. You're going to want to scream and yell and maybe even cry. And those would all be okay responses, right? Like that. And then not effective to get you what you want, right? It's not going to get you closer to getting your assignment done. And we want to get you back into wise mind. So like Jackson and Ashton said, we might want to do some breathing, or doing what you often do that's effective is like in that moment, you're just going to notice your emotions are so high and you're going to go do, what do you usually do in your room or on the couch?
Either do square up or just play with my magnets.
Play with your magnets, go to your room and distract by doing something else. And sometimes you kind of take little mini vacations where you just climb into bed and put the covers over your head.
Yep, I did do that.
Right? And that's a really effective strategy as well to kind of cope with those high emotions. So you might do that. All right? So once we know what we are going to do, the next thing that's really important is that you imagine yourself doing it. Right? You actually kind of like close your eyes. You imagine mom coming to you and saying, oh, just got the news, new rule, all things have to be done in 10 minutes. Imagine your emotions getting really, really high. And then imagine yourself going to your room and either crawling into your bed and pulling the covers over your head, or playing one of your activities in your room. Okay, and doing each of those. And then you've got to do that over and over and over again. That's the last step, is to rehearse that. Once you've imagined it not going well, you're then going to practice and rehearse what skills you're going to use to cope effectively. And practice that. And this is a lot of what like athletes do when they're getting ready for big sporting events. And like we've seen, I don't know if any of you have watched this during COVID-19, without the Olympics happening, and you've got all these Olympic athletes who are figuring out ways to practice for their competitions without being able to go into the pool and swim or dive or do their gymnastic routines because they can't go to their gyms anymore.
Or go to the snow house.
Right, or people who are skiing, right? They can't do that either. So they're coming up with ways to imagine in their minds how they're going to rehearse and practice this. So that's what we want you guys to do. This isn't just problem solving and thinking about like, oh, how am I going to get myself ready for it and to decrease the likelihood that the problem happens, right? That I get that news. It's really about when I get the news and my emotions go really high, what am I going to do then? What am I going to do in that moment when I am dysregulated? Coping ahead and practicing for when I end up in emotion mind and I need to get myself back to wise mind. Like when we're in school, one of the ways I think about this is like you ever go and you're really worried about taking a test, and when you take that test, you think, oh, I'm not going to remember anything. I'm just going to freeze. I'm going to panic. I'm going to want to run out of the classroom. And so you've done lots of studying. You've done some mindfulness before you've gotten to class, and then you end up getting into class, and even though you've practiced and gotten yourself ready, you sit down, you turn your math test over, and it looks like all the words and letters are all in Greek, and you have no idea what it says, and your anxiety goes really high through the roof. Coping ahead would be practicing for what do you do in that moment when you turn the test over and you don't recognize anything on the page. We would practice in our minds, walk into class, look at the test, recognize you don't know everything, your emotions go up, then quickly turning the paper back over and then doing maybe some paced breathing in your mind, right? Or some self-soothing, maybe distracting by counting the tiles on the wall in the classroom until your emotion comes down a little bit. And then we're going to imagine turning the test back over and covering up most of it so you only see the first question. And then breathing, right? And we're going to practice and do that over and over again. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. How you practice and get ready for the really hard thing so that you can stay focused on it.
Yep.
All right, so that's what I want you guys to think about tonight is identify if there are any situations coming up that you are worried about, that you think you might have a big emotional reaction to, and how you can use your skill of Cope Ahead to plan and practice in your mind, bringing in all of your other skills that help you to act effectively. So here's our 3 take-home points for everybody to practice today. Think about with your families. 1, I want you to build mastery by making a plan to do one difficult thing each day. This is going to help make deposits in our joy bank, right? Of deposits of joy into our bank, right? And it's going to help us build that competence and confidence, right? So I might have you guys fold laundry every day so that you get better at folding laundry. And even though you don't enjoy it, maybe you'll have joy when the floor is all clean. That sounds like a brilliant idea for me, so that I don't have to do the thing I don't like. No,
I
just
could
kidding.
do that.
But we could all do that together. Second take-home point. Think about a situation that might be coming up and you might have a high emotional reaction to it. And then ask yourself, what's the threat? What's the worst thing that could happen in this situation? And once you identify that, I want you to identify what skills you're going to use and then rehearse those skills, using those skills, and it's not going well. And you have to get your skills in line to manage your emotions, right? So then you're going to practice in your mind, using your imagination of going through that difficult situation, emotions going high, and then you imagine yourself acting effectively with your skills to help you get through it. So those are the 3 things we want you to practice, all right? That's building mastery and coping ahead, all right? Any questions from you guys about these skills? No? Do we have any questions from anybody at home? Or comments?
None that I see for right now.
Okay, so it looks like somebody's got a comment that they're saying one of the things that's helpful is, let's see.
Mommy.
Okay, so getting from one thing to the next, growing and going bigger on hills, right? If you're trying to get further in distance on something, kind of moving through these things. All right, my friends, we are towards the end of class for today. Oh, you have a question, Grace? Thank you. Nice support, Ashton.
What if, like, you don't get notice about it, and then it just happens?
It just happens, right? So then maybe it's the practice, like, okay, when emotions get really high, right, this is where we're just going to practice in our minds, whatever it is. When I know I get angry, we'll just imagine a bunch of really things that might make us really angry. How am I going to respond to getting myself into wise mind when emotion mind for anger goes really high? And maybe we'll just practice and think about times when it's happened in the past and do that. Practice it for that. Because we want to practice. If we know there are situations that tend to set us off over and over again, how do we just practice getting through those situations effectively in our mind and rehearsing it? That was a great question. All right, so here's the last thing. Just want to kind of remind you guys about those announcements we made at the beginning. Jim and I are going to be doing a live Q&A sponsored by Forefront and the Mental Health Technology Transfer on May 19th and June 16th. So be sure to grab the registration link on our website. And then we'd love to have parents joining us on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings on Facebook Live at 7 a.m. for Parenting Through COVID-19. All right, everybody, have a great day.
Make sure to subscribe and leave a like.
Thank you, Ashton.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Go skillfully.
Go skillfully and enjoy your weekend. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.